or to the cloud. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world or wherever you are on YouTube watching this video right now. My name is Patrick Madigan. You are here live with us or not live with us on our monthly Coffee with Omega Zoom interview. A little bit about what you are here today, then I'll intro our guest and we're just going to dig right into it. So most of the people on this call are a group of realtors affiliated with Keller Williams Realty International, largest firm in the world in terms of agents, celebrating our 40th anniversary, I think, coming up soon or just happened. Every month, our young professionals division, and specifically our chapter here in the Triangle of North Carolina, we're in the capital metro area of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. We like to host just an inspiring, motivational, educational, vulnerable interview with someone who's doing a big business, but more so living a big, inspiring life somewhere around the world. And so these used to be in person. It was literally in the morning in our offices, coffee with a mega agent. It is now, due to pandemic and other reasons, has gone virtual, which has allowed us to expand our reach, expand out of just the Triangle rather than paying Amanda to fly in, as we would pay a lot for her fees and for her wisdom to come here. We're going to have her on Zoom. And so we usually host this with an agent who's built a business. This is actually our first departure from that, where we get to have someone who was formerly in real estate production and in many other industries, many other leadership roles, is going to share about her current life. And we're going to talk about mindset, motivation, productivity, interviewing, team building, lead generation, all sorts of things. And so without much further ado, we're going to jump right in. But last thing I want to say is, if you're not yet with Keller Williams or familiar with Keller Williams Young Professionals, which is our division of the company dedicated to those under 40 who just want to surround themselves with like-minded people, I always describe it personally as high positivity, high energy, high productivity people. And it's changed my life. I could talk about it for hours. And it's probably going to change a lot of people in the years to come. And so KWYP.org is the easiest way to find it. I encourage you to look that up. It's literally only $40 a month to join if you're already a Keller Williams agent. And if you're not, shout out to anybody on this call who would be happy to tell you why they're with Keller Williams and how it changed their life. So with that said, Amanda, you ready to jump in?
I'm not just ready. Let me tell you, I'm getting some feedback there.
Yeah, we're getting a little echo there too. Go ahead. We'll see if it goes away.
There we go. When I thought about this morning, I was like, you know what I've done? And I can't think of a more fun morning than to chop it up for an hour with you. You know, you're one of my favorite people. So thank you
Awesome.
for having me.
Yep.
I'm excited to dive in.
Hey, it's my pleasure and it's my honor. So I'll give you a brief intro. A lot of times I'll ask you about your upbringing and all that. I'm just going to zoom through some of that and we're going to jump right in. And we might go back to your early jobs and stuff, but the Amanda Dahl, originally from Alabama in the Southeast United States, had a start in hotel hospitality management industry. And after a successful stint there, took her talents to real estate. And I can't remember if you were in production before or if you went straight onto the team, but spent a few years on a very high producing Keller Williams team in the Tampa area. And then that has recently launched her own coaching and consulting business. So I know that you were the VP of growth and expansion maybe on the team you were with, and then you transitioned into being the CEO of that team. You had equity, you had investment opportunities, multiple revenue streams, and then you took your own advice. You coach agents and then on how to launch their businesses, and now you're doing it yourself. So although you're not out there going on listing appointments and leads, you are still very much an entrepreneur. You're a builder. You're an, the book Rocket Fuel talks about the visionary and the implementer or executor. I mean, you kill that side of things with the systems and the execution and the team building. So I'm excited to dig in. And with that said, anything before I ask you your first question, or you got anything you want to add?
Oh, that was I love the CNN version of that. That was perfect.
Yes. So I want to start with this question. What is Amanda 2022's, how is her mindset different from Amanda 2012?
2012, I was 25.
Or somewhere in that range. You are a very different person than you were, I'm sure, 8 to 10, 12 years ago. What's changed the most?
Probably the two biggest things that have changed are, number one, you said it in my bio, right? I'm from the deep, deep South. I'm a Southern belle at heart, and we never talked about our failures. We never aired our dirty laundry. And the Amanda today is an open book. I get more vulnerable on stage than anywhere else because I feel like it's empowering to people. Heck, it was freeing for me. So I would definitely say way more vulnerable. I lead with my failures now rather than my successes. And then the second thing is probably that back then I absolutely thought everything that came to me, everything that I did was because of me. And what I know now, it's because of the people who I surround myself with and the people that I keep in my world. that help elevate me and push me forward. All I have to do is the work. It's the mindset stuff. It's that having that sounding board. It's having that army of people around you to pick you up when you're down or to push you when you think you can't go any further. They're who make the difference. So I'm only a small part of that.
Wow. Yeah. So heavy on the mindset, heavy on it sounds like humility, to knowing you can do more and be more vulnerable, and that humility, allowing yourself up to more opportunity. So you got a coaching business now. What's getting you out of bed in the morning? What's your motivation right now for a day?
Yeah. Recently, I would say since April, it's my health. I cannot be the best version of myself until I take care of myself first thing in the morning. So my alarm goes off at 4:30 and I'm excited to get to the gym every day and crush it. So that's what gets me out of bed. I want to see how much more weight I can lift. I want to see how much farther I can go. Because by doing that in the morning, crushing that in the morning, anything that comes after that is going to be easier.
And you and I go back a few years here, or I guess about a year and a half, almost 2 years. What can you tell us about your health journey and what's brought you here? I know you've gone through highs and lows with that.
It was
I got into real estate in 2015, and that was March. And the November before that, I had just gotten married. And so in 2017, I was in the process of getting a divorce. And what I know is in 2017, I was 100 pounds heavier than when I entered that relationship 6 years prior. And so that was my first embarking on a health journey. I'd never been heavy before. I never even had a relationship with health and fitness. I was just just naturally an average person who could do fine things. I wasn't heavy. I wasn't thin. I was just average. And so that was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, the first thing I need to do is take my life back. My whole world's about to change. I'm going to have a different routine. I'm going to have a different place to live. I'm going to have everything's going to change. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put health at the forefront of that. So for an entire year, I did that. And I lost 125 pounds from October 17 to October 18. And then my first initial thought after that was, now let's see if we can keep the weight off. I had never been heavy before. So I was like, am I always going to be one of these yo-yoers that goes up and down? So for an entire year after that, I was able to keep the weight off. And I was like, all right, so this is my new thing now. And then a pandemic hit us, right? And so you couldn't go to the gym, you couldn't do anything. So I literally just plateaued. I was there. And then last year, in April, honestly, I made more money in the 3 previous months than I ever had in my life. I was more successful than I'd ever been in my life. And I literally wasn't leaving my house. And there were some days I wasn't even getting out of bed. And so what I identified in that time was that I've got to feel good from the inside in order to feel good from the outside. How am I as successful as I've ever been and making more money than I ever have before? And I don't even want to go spend it. I don't want to do anything with it. Heck, I don't even want to brush my teeth. And I identified that I need to feel good from the inside out. So April, I took a trip to New York and I was like, I'm going to spend the entire month in the city around my sister. She knows health and fitness better than anyone that I know. And so I went vegan that month as well. And that was my way of essentially eliminating a bunch of stuff so that I could slowly work it back in and identify what my body liked, what was fueling my body. So I did that. I went vegan for about 60 days. I identified the foods that really weren't helping me out. And in that time, I started walking. May 1st, I took my first walk. I walked 4 miles. June 1st, I picked up my first weight. And here we are now, September 1st, and I'm down 5 sizes. Ironically enough, only 20 pounds though. My whole body has morphed and changed with weightlifting and just having a really good relationship with food.
Yeah, it's one thing to lose weight, and it's another thing to not lose as much weight, but lose the size. I'm currently on a fitness journey myself, and you've been with me on these journeys. And so you said 60 days. It reminded me of the 66-day challenge that we hear a lot about in Keller Williams. So I actually want to go back to where we met. We met first virtually through audio only on the Clubhouse app. So if you guys don't know what the Clubhouse app was, it was popular in Silicon Valley at first, like most of these apps start, and it's audio only rooms that are usually not recorded. That was the idea. If you miss it, you're out. It's like a conference call that you can't go back and rewatch. And so it had this intimacy and this vulnerability and this really cool, tight-knit community. And Amanda, I found, was hosting this room every morning called the Power Up for Realtors, right? With this little explosion emoji. And the format was so simple. What were the 3 things, Amanda, that we talked about every day?
What are our gratitude? What are our intentions? And what are our numbers?
Our numbers. Gratitude, pretty obvious. Intention for the day. And your number could be anything symbolic. It could be For me, my number was 66 days. So today my number would be 17. I'm on day 17 of my challenge. A bunch of realtors, your number could be 395. That's the address of the house that I need to sell, or my listings, I need to get it down to 400. So today my number's 400. I need to reduce the price. And for probably about 6 months, not only did I show up and listen for the first few weeks, Amanda teased out this leadership in me through that group. And she said, hey, if anyone ever wants to help me co-host, I want to give the microphone to other people. She didn't need to. Maybe you did. Maybe you were getting tired. I don't know. But what I saw you do was give your platform to other people. You created this group and then you let other people lead it. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll co-host for 15 minutes if that's okay. And you gave it to me. And here I am now hosting this monthly Zoom. And this Zoom would not have happened if you hadn't given me the platform to work on my skills and my interviewing and my just presentation. And I've found such a thriving of my own gifts in that. So first of all, thank you for that. But secondly, I want to know, what did Clubhouse do for you and your business and your personal life, showing up every day? Because you're still pretty active in there, right? I'm not on as much anymore, but tell me what Clubhouse has done in your life. And more importantly, that community that you found through Clubhouse.
So you totally flustered me because I didn't know that about you. So I didn't have to give up the mic, and yet I wanted to, because hosting every day was lonely. So how cool is that? I had no idea. Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I didn't realize you didn't know that. Yeah.
No. So Clubhouse literally, it changed my perspective on real estate completely. I got in 2015 and I only ever knew Keller Williams, and I love Keller Williams. Keller Williams is my family, right? I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. YP is my blood. I mean, that is it. And I didn't know anything outside of KW. So wow, what an opportunity. What an opportunity to collaborate with people across the globe. Like, there's a guy that's in that room every single morning and his name is Anthony and he's in Portugal. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's amazing, right?
Antonio.
And somebody else, yeah, from Puerto Rico. And then there's somebody else from North Carolina. Like, it was just a really cool way to connect with people. In addition to that, it allowed me to hear, because I'm a problem solver by nature. I truly am. I love to build stuff. I love to break it. I love to make more efficient ways to do it and break it down to foundation and build it back up again. That's what I do. And so what I was hearing every single morning is almost like this cry for help. Like, we're struggling with these things, or, we don't have access to these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have that. Oh my gosh, I know that. Oh my gosh, what an opportunity just to connect with people and give them insight into what Keller Williams just gives us naturally, right? Just part of our culture here at KW. So it was a really cool way to connect with people. And quite honestly, it built the foundation of my business when I launched. I left the real estate team at the end of August, and September 1st, I launched, and my first 10 clients weren't even in KW. They all came from Clubhouse. Wow. Yeah.
How much of you leaving the team and deciding to launch your business, would that have happened if it hadn't been for you getting a taste of coaching on Clubhouse, coaching these realtors with this daily group?
That's a really great question. So I think that was a very big part of it. And it was because of that, and because of the traction that I gained with Clubhouse, that just took me in a whole different direction. And quite honestly, I'm telling you, I probably would have stayed to find any way to do it with the team. And yet we just came to terms with, it just wasn't going to happen. What my next evolution was, just it wasn't going to happen on the real estate team. So as sad as that was, I honestly, coaching, and I promise you, I've got a really great friend. She's on this call, Tamika. Tamika, when you think about education and you think about training, Tamika's who comes to mind for me. And I would have laughed at you 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, if you would have told me that I was going to be someone that taught people, or someone that led people, or that coached people. If you couldn't keep up with me, and back then a lot of people couldn't, I was going to leave you in my dust. And then what I identified was, it gets really lonely at the finish line, right? If you're not bringing people up with you, if you're not helping people get there with you. And I never in a million years knew I was going to find this joy or passion in it. And so somebody asked me to teach a class. And then somebody asked me if I jump on a call with them. And then someone asked if I would coach them. And before you know it, I'm like, oh, I really like this. And then to watch the light bulb go on for them, or to watch them solve their first problem, or to watch them finally get that person on the phone to convert to an appointment, whatever it was, the excitement and the joy in celebrating with them, you can't put a price on that. So I found a passion in it, and it was totally accidental.
I love that. So you found the passion on Clubhouse. It helped develop you to where you were, but it sounds like you were going this direction anyway. So we got a lot of realtors on this call, and shout out to Tamika in Savannah, Georgia. Shout out to Kevin in San Diego. Kyler, I don't know what market you're in, so feel free to unmute and let us know where you are.
I'm in Bozeman, Montana.
Bozeman, Montana. Awesome. So we're getting all the time zones covered. And we've got Cody. Did Cody hop off? Yeah, Cody was in Oklahoma City, I believe, formerly here in the Triangle. So, I mean, not only that, we've got a community of people coming to hear Amanda speak. That alone is a testament to her wisdom and her energy that she brings in YP. But we want to speak specifically to realtors for a little bit because that is the major audience of this interview. Where do you see most realtors fail at any stage in their career? Tell us some of the downfalls you see and what you're coaching agents through right now.
Great question. So some of the things that come to mind first is a lot of them just don't know what they don't know. And there's no, like, you go and get your real estate license, right? And let's just talk about that for a second. The barrier of entry is so low in our industry. I think you need a high school diploma and 36 to 120 hours, depending on what state you're in a real estate class. And boom, you can go take a state exam. And so when you get your state exam, the very next thing is to go join a brokerage. And nobody tells you how to interview brokerages. Nobody tells you what questions to ask, nothing. You just think that it's something you have to do and you go find the one that honestly sells you or pitches you the best picture, right? And then you join, and depending on who you join, you may or may not, and most of them do not get the education that they need. They're like, I'm a real estate agent. Well, I guess I got to go out and sell some houses. And what they don't prepare you for is you are now a business owner. And in order to succeed in this industry, you have got to have a successful business. Nobody tells you that. They don't tell you what books to read. They don't tell you where to go unless you just had some awesome mentor that got you into real estate in the first place, or you join a brokerage that offers that. And today they're few and far between, truthfully. So first, they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know where to go find the answers. So I do give grace in that regard. Secondly, though, there is a lot of ego in our industry, and there is a whole lot of fluff in our industry. I don't use the word hate very often. I really don't, and I try not to. And yet the reality is I hate the language that we use in our industry sometimes. Why are we talking in fluff GCI numbers? I want to know how much you net last year. Because if you gross $2 million and you only net 40,000, respectfully, you have lost in this game, my friend. So we don't highlight the things that are truly important for business-minded individuals to build a successful business. And then the third thing, and probably the most important thing, is for the majority of people, even if you do, I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
Good morning, Miss Katie Beck. Keep going, Amanda.
Even if you do want to stay what you would call a single agent, I don't want to build a team. I don't want to build a big business. I just want to be successful in real estate. The reality is you've got a team, whether you realize it or not, even if it's a virtual assistant or maybe an admin or a lender partner or a title, like you've got a team. And the most important question that we don't ask ourselves is, who do I need to become in order to lead people? And a lot of people in our industry, they just got really great at sales. They sold some houses, they got pretty successful, and they've got to bring other people into their world, and they have no idea how to lead them. So those are probably the three things that I see just consistently. It's like this hamster wheel. They just keep happening and keep happening.
Guys, I'm encouraging y'all to copy this link and go send it to some people. Shout out to, I said Katie Beck. What I meant to say is Mrs. Katie Campbell out of Greater Philly metro area, Jesse out of Chicago, Harjut out of New York City. We got Biz too, out of recently located to New Orleans. So guys, this call is taking over the country. I'm so excited that everyone's here to hear Amanda's wisdom. And this is about to turn into a one-on-one coaching call because you were speaking my language, exactly what I focused on at Mega Camp, or what I've been focusing on since Mega Camp. One of my teammates here on the call, Devin, is aware of that. I love what you said. Whether or not you are a solo agent, you still have a team. And actually, Amanda, where we met on Clubhouse, and then a few months later, we actually met in person in the KWYP, the inaugural summit, right? So every year, in addition to the two big Keller Williams conferences, we've now added a Keller Williams YP specific conference. The first one was in Atlanta, and I didn't bring my notebook with me. And I had this little sticky note from the attorney who was one of the sponsors, and I just found them today. I've been looking for these notes for like months, and I finally found them. And look at this one right here. I drew a diagram of the E to P breakthrough. And so when you're a natural salesperson, if you're charismatic, you can really succeed in real estate, like you said. But for you to sustain it, for you to have any sort of longevity in this business without burning out, without burning your clients, burning your reputation, you can't stay entrepreneurial and disorganized and charismatic. You're going to keep hitting that ceiling until you break through and go to purposeful. And even that is an iteration. You spiral on that. You get to the next ceiling and then the next. So where do you see agents not break through? Or let me put it this way. We talked about where they fail. How does an agent break through from entrepreneurial to purposeful? Is it their first hire? Is it joining a community? Is it hiring a coach? Like what agents do well to get through that?
I think that's such a great question. And just to highlight something that you said very quickly,
Yeah.
Every single time an agent hits their head on that ceiling, it is just, it slowly starts to chip away at the agent. And I promise you, I watched this in real time. So the first time you do it, you're like, that kind of hurt. And then the second time you do it, you're like, what the heck? And the third time you're like, why am I even doing this? And the fourth time you're like, should I even be doing this? And it can literally be a detriment. If you don't break through, eventually you're going to break right out. Like that's just the reality. And I've watched it happen so many times. So I would say where agents actually break through is absolutely, listen, everybody, as soon as they hear coaching come out of my mouth, they're like, oh, that's what you're going to say. You're a coach.
Yeah,
Y'all, I joined real estate as an executive assistant. I was an executive assistant to a guy who wanted to build a real estate team. I got licensed 6 months then with no intention of using it on the consumer. I wanted to support someone building a business. So what I can tell you is absolutely, when you identify that you cannot do this alone, you absolutely can't, and get out of your own way in that regard. I feel like that's the first step. And then secondly is go find somebody who can do the things that you're not good at. Maybe that's a mentor. And God bless if you find an awesome mentor. There is a difference between mentorship and coaching. Let's be very clear about that. And what I have learned with my experience now, almost 8 years in real estate, is that most agents, like myself, for the record, are motivated by pain. And then it's painful when you have to write a check for things. That's it. The pain of not doing something ultimately becomes greater than the pain of doing it and feeling it, until the pain of doing it becomes, or the pain of not doing it becomes greater, right? And so then we go out and do the thing. Why wait that long? Why wait until you're at that pain point? Just understand the fact that you can't do it alone. Find a mentor, find a coach, find someone who's going to help you build the roadmap, and then they will guide you. And then after that, the next evolution is they actually do what they need to do in order to hire someone. And then they hire someone, and then they help them get into the education and coaching so that they can take that business to the next level. So when I see the people succeeding, it's the ones that realize they couldn't do it on their own. And then they put the things in place that they need to: coaching, education, leverage.
Congrats.
Yeah. I think we've got a few hot mics here, so just keep an eye on those. I can't agree with you more, Amanda. And one of the through lines that I hear you mentioning is people. It's other people. And I mean, so much of real estate attracts people who want freedom of schedule. They want autonomy of their tasks and their to-do list. They don't want a boss, and they want high income potential. It's naturally hard for those people to then succeed in that and then totally shift and then become this organized business owner. Case in point. And
autonomy is earned, by the way. Let's be very clear about that. You don't get a real estate license and then say, I'm going to go out and sell some houses. And oh, now I've sold 20 houses. And guess what? I get all my time back. It's time to hire someone. You don't earn the right to do that until you've shown that you can do that. It is earned autonomy. And so many people leave out that word earned. You don't just naturally get autonomy gifted to you. The business earns the right to. The business earns the right to hire leverage because you went out and did what you were supposed to do as a salesperson. And once you get to capacity, then you can hire someone. The business has earned the right to. And then guess what? Then you put your head down and you go back to work. You take all that time that you now got back and you reinvest it on that side of the business so that you can do what? Go hire more leverage. And then eventually you get to the point where you have earned that autonomy to then take a vacation if you want to, right? And I'm not saying don't take care of yourself. What I'm saying is so often we get lost in those details. Like, I've sold 20 houses. I'm just going to take the whole fourth quarter off. Like we can't do that, guys. So just want to be clear on that.
No, that's great. That autonomy. And two, I mean, you're a slave to your clients' demands at a certain point, right? If you don't have any clients and you don't have any money coming in yet, and you're desperate, you're an entrepreneur without a safety net, you have to go show a house. You have to go take an overpriced listing. You have to deal with a client that you probably shouldn't be dealing with because you're not the right fit. And that is the opposite of autonomy. If anything, you're in a customer service business where you have to serve that client. And then
how do you build a successful business when you have no money? Time, my friend. And then eventually time buys your money buys your time back. When you don't have any money, time. And then ultimately you get to a point where you've got the money that you can now buy your time back. That's how you sweat equity.
Boom. So what I love about this is the people that are involved in it. It's building through other people. And you've seen that you've really grown in not only helping realtors identify their own strengths and weaknesses in building, but also the whole team development side. And so before we get into that, before we get into team building and hiring and leveraging and recognizing talent, I want to talk more about the personal development of a realtor, of any business owner. We always hear that you are the average of the 5 people around you, right? So if you want to grow in life, get around new people. Without, getting into the fact that could seem like, what's the word, like neglecting of your old group of friends. It's not what we're getting into, but this idea of breaking into a new group of people. So how does one get into it? You can't just go knock on Gary Keller's door and say, Gary, will you mentor me? So how does someone who's struggling or they're really motivated to get to that next level, how do they find a new group of 5? How does someone get on your radar or someone else's? What does that look like?
And while I agree with the statement that you made earlier, sometimes we do have to, I remember sometimes we do have to go back and evaluate that. I remember when I first heard this, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right? First of all, I didn't have the 5, I had 3. And when I evaluated, I was like, is it possible to move backwards in life? Because that's what I'm doing with these 3. And so what I did, and one of them, my gosh, at the time was my husband, right? And so my thought process was, listen, I'm not just going to throw anybody out. Like, you're not baby out with the bathwater here. This does need to be a conversation though. So for each one of those people that I did have a conversation with, I was all about meeting them where they were at. However, I had to know their intention was to come up with me, because if it wasn't, it doesn't mean I can't love you. Yet sometimes I have to love you from afar. And that, just because somebody that I care about isn't necessarily growing at the rate that I'm not, I just know that they don't serve that purpose in my life. Doesn't mean I can't love them. Doesn't mean I can't spend time with them. It's just not going to be as much time. Naturally, things that we're doing in our life and the ways in which we're growing, we're going to grow apart. But that doesn't mean you just have to throw them out. So let's be very clear about that. Now, for somebody that wants to find those people, for me, my goal is to always be in a conversation or always be in a room. And you go literally with the intent just to observe. Not like, I know the answer to that question, or let me see how loud I can be in that room. Like, I would sit and just take notes. I would literally, any opportunity that I got to be in conversations that were on my growth plan, that were on my 135, that were on my 411, I was in. Where do I go for mastermind? I don't know. Have you ever heard of the question triangle?
Maybe explain it to us.
Okay. So a fun fact, and a lot of people don't know this, that when I first got into real estate, my first coach was Melissa Kirchnock-Zabora. She's actually an OG of YP, right?
Yeah.
And so she taught me so much of what I know. I regurgitate all this stuff on a regular basis. And so she taught me the question triangle. So essentially, if you think about a question triangle like this, and you divide it into 4 sections horizontally, the lowest form of question is a why question. And why invokes defense. When you ask somebody why, they automatically want to get defensive. So if you, second level is a what question. When you ask someone a what question, automatically they start to deliver information. Think about it like bullet points. They get out of defense mode and they actually start regurgitating information to you. What caused you? What would you do, right? The third level is a how question. How do I do this, right? How do I get from point A to point B? And you can slowly start to see the roadmap that people are drawing for you, right? And the highest form of question is who? Who's doing it at my level? Who do I need to go find? Who do I need to be friends with? Who can show me that, right? Or who can do that for me? It's the highest level of question. So when I started asking myself the who question, which Melissa taught me, that for me opened up a whole new door. Who's doing it at the level that we want to? Who's doing the things I want to be doing? Who's in the conversations? Who is it that I need to be connected with? And when I started asking myself those questions, it put me in masterminds, it put me in conversations, it put me in classes that ultimately allowed me to find my tribe. It led me right to KWYP.
I love that. I've got so many thoughts in response to that we could go so many different directions, but I do want to go into this team building route. When people like us on this call, when Mikey in Chicago is surrounding himself with the mastermind, he elevates his circle of 5. That's going to become that his new average. And he starts team building. Where do agents go for their first, second, and third hire? Because those are the ones where you're going to cut your teeth. You're going to make most of your mistakes as a boss, as a team builder, where you're going to struggle. You're going to hire the wrong people. And then once you get rolling, then you get more of your systems and you get more educated at it. Gary often talks about failing fast. So how do we fail quickly in hiring and get over those humps? And how do we become these teams like you were partnered with for so many years down in Tampa?
So Nikki Ubaldini taught me this. Talent is everywhere and not everyone is talent. And so where do you go to find talent? Everywhere. You have to become somebody that knows exactly what they're looking for, because I can't tell you if you're going to find that person on a bus or on a Craigslist ad, like my story. Everyone wants a sexy story. I entered a Craigslist ad, right? So I can't tell you where the talent is going to be. What I can tell you is if you know exactly what you're looking for, when they do appear, you're going to know that that's the person. And you have to get really right and really real with that. So that takes you back to then what am I looking for? You have to know if I'm ready for that next piece of leverage, what is their job description? What are they going to be responsible for? What kind of characteristics do they possess? What kind of skill set do they have to have? What's their disc profile? What are their mannerisms, right? You have to know all of this. And I can feel it. I can see it. I can breathe it. I can taste it. I know what that person looks like. And quite honestly, I did that. I hired a director of operations in April. And I knew as soon as she was presented to me that that was her. And asked her, she's on this call, Miss Katie Campbell. I knew Katie was the right person because I knew what I was looking for. I knew what I needed. I needed literally my external brain. That's what I needed. And Katie was my external brain. She thought like me. She knew exactly what to anticipate. She's been in the game long enough. Her skill set was there. She's also someone that has a servant's heart. She's like so many things that I knew that I needed. When Katie became available, or when I became aware of the fact that Katie was available, I knew that was it. And I was like, we're going to go through the recruiting process. Let's do it. So when you identify what that is, when you run into that piece of talent, you're going to know, and it makes it super simple.
I love that. Shout out to Katie. Let's go with the first hire. What does that first hire need to be? You said you have to know culturally, you have to know DISC. There are a lot of things to keep in your head. So what's the hierarchy? What are the most important things? Because you often hear, I can teach someone how to do real estate, but I can't teach them how to be a good person, or insert XYZ here. What are those XYZ things that are the non-negotiables you need to be looking for? You found it in Katie. So for us as real estate agents, or anyone who's running a business looking for that first admin piece to really be their backbone of operations, what does that look like? How do you identify that talent? Let's say if it's your bartender or if it's your Uber driver.
Well,
Are there questions you ask, or are the things you look for?
Yeah, it all goes back to you. This is an exercise that you do with yourself. And so how could I find this individual if I didn't know what I needed first? And how do I know what I need unless I dive deep and figure it out? So I have every one of my clients do this exercise, and I did this exercise personally, by the way, back when I started with the real estate team that I was on. And so because I kept hearing you could do more, you know, I don't feel like your time management is effective. I just feel like you're kind of running around crazy all day, and you're just way too busy for what the workload that you have. And every single time, and I know you guys feel that, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm at capacity. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I should be doing. Oh my gosh, I can't do one more thing. And the reality is that true? That's a question that I ask myself. Is that true? Because until we identify where we're spending our time and if it's worth it or not, then we don't really know if we're ready for that next piece of leverage. And I think so often people make that mistake. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm at capacity. I need someone else. And then they bring someone else in. And the first thing they go is, well, what are they going to do actually? And you know how many times I get, Amanda, I've got this full-time administrative assistant and I just need more for her to do. Well, that lets me know you weren't clear before you hired her. So first you have to do this exercise and identify where is your time being spent? Because sometimes it is just a time management issue. Because when I think about leverage, I first think about leverage in terms of systems and processes, and they're free. What technology, what system, or what process can leverage me? Leverage in people's the highest form of leverage, and that will come, yet we got to work through the motions first. So once you do this exercise, and it is a time audit, very tedious for 14 days. It's like a journal.
Wow.
From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you are documenting what you're doing, and you're putting a timestamp next to it. And you know how many people come back to me and they're like, holy cow, I spend a lot of time checking emails, or holy cow, I spend a lot of time in the car driving around. And I'm like, fantastic. Now we're getting somewhere. So we see where you're spending the bulk of your time. Then the very next question is, now where should you be spending the bulk of your time? And we know that it's as a team leader, especially in the beginning, it's 5 activities that are dollar productive: lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating offers, script practice, and role play. So if you look at that list and you feel like you're at capacity and you circle those 5 things that are dollar productive for you, everything else on that list now becomes the job description for the next person that you're going to hire. So now that you know what they need to do, you can start to dive into, well, if there's a lot of client care manager stuff on this, they probably need to have some I in them since they're going to be forward facing with my clients, right? They're definitely going to have some S in them because I need some systems and processes developed around this. If I want them monitoring my email. So now you can start to see what things that they need to possess. And a great tool for this that KW offers is the missing persons report. So if you go into KW Connect and you type in the missing persons report, it is like a 6 or 8 page report that literally takes you through. It is, when you finish this thing, like you could draw this person on a piece of paper. You're so clear. So use the missing persons report. That's how you do it though.
I think something that's so key there is that it's not a one size fits all. It's not every executive assistant, which is what you started as, which is crazy. And now here you are, you've been a CEO of a real estate company. You are, you've got your own successful coaching business with your own director of ops. An EA that Amanda answers a Craigslist ad for, for Steven here in the Triangle may not be the same EA that I need for my business, because we're totally different people. We have different mindsets. You want someone who obviously fills your weaknesses, but if you're a really high I, you may not want the librarian engineer type in your office, because you guys just may not get along on an interpersonal level. And that's where the goals come into it. And moving forward towards a goal can bring people together, even if their personalities aren't the exact right fit. It's amazing what that commonality and that bond can do to unlikely matches. So speaking of that, you're building your business right now. You have a lot of motivation. You get on calls like this. We have high energy. What do you do when you wake up and that high energy isn't there? How does Amanda Dahl reset her mindset? How do you get through those days that just feel like a slog, or those workouts that feel like a slog?
Yeah, great question. So you wanted vulnerable. Here we go. So it was the weekend before my birthday. So my birthday's November 5th. So this would have been the Friday before. And my birthday was on a Sunday. I decided that day, like, that's it. Our marriage for the last year has just been crap. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
And so fast forward to the end of that day, I'm following this U-Haul with all of my stuff in it. And I'm literally realizing in that moment that it's not, I was anxiety, stress, frustration. And it's not because of the relationship. The relationship had died a year ago. Like, I had time to process that. For me, it was everything was about to change. And if you know me, like, I am a regimented, routine individual. And so everything, my drive to work, where I was going to live, I was going to be living out of boxes for a while, trying to unpack stuff, the route I was going to take to work, where I was going to get my coffee now, like all of these things. And I'm just like, I could slowly just start to feel it coming. So I get to the new place that now I'm going to call home, and it's a 2-story house, right? So I'm carrying this box up the stairs, and I get to the top of the stairs, and I am literally winded. And I'm like, I'm 35 years old and I can't make it, at the time I was 31. Sorry, I'm 35 now. I'm 31 years old and I can't make it up the stairs without being out of breath. And in that moment, it was like an epiphany for me. I'm like, today's going to be the day. And so I decided from that moment, I walked straight into my bedroom and I opened up my journal to the next blank page. And I was like, there are going to be moments on this journey where I feel anxiety, maybe even depression. I feel stressed out. I feel like I want to give up. I feel frustrated. I feel mad, whatever those things are. And in those moments, I've got to have a way to get out of them, because what do most people do? They literally don't make a contingency plan. They have plan A. And if plan A falls apart, they go into this downward spiral and they will stay in that. Oh my gosh, the Joneses I've been working with for 6 months now, they just went with another realtor. And guess what? They won't do anything productive the rest of the day and sometimes the rest of the week, because they are so in that, just circling the drain. And you've got to find a way to come out of that. Yeah, right? We've all been there. And so for me, it was this contingency plan this day. So I opened up my journal and I flipped to a blank piece of paper. And I said, I'm going to make a list of everything that brings me joy. Everything. It's going to be 45 minutes, no longer than an hour. And these are the things that are going to take me out of my funk. So I put manicure, pedicure, massage, call my sister. She's my favorite person in the world. Read a book. And I even listed out the books that I would pull from and the chapters that I would read, because I knew they were positive, right? Listen to my playlist, go for a walk, whatever it was. And I made this entire list, and I made a promise to myself that in those moments, because we can all feel it, come on, we can feel our blood boiling before it starts, right? And I said, in those moments where I can feel it coming on, I'm just going to open up my journal. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to point. And whatever my finger lands on, that's the thing that's going to pull me out. That's like my pattern interrupt, right? Because when we get into that mindset and that vicious cycle, you need something to interrupt that pattern. So I made myself that promise, and here we are almost 5 years later, and that's what I do now. So it could be a playlist. It could be that page in my journal, whatever it is, I've got to get myself out of it. Because what I do know is when you go to make a decision to do something in your life, I'm going to get up this morning and I'm going to go to the gym, or you know what, I'm going to throw some clothes on and I'm going to go for a walk. You've got 5 seconds before your brain starts to try to talk you out of it. If you don't get into action within 5 seconds, and I learned this from Mel Robbins, you guys want a really, really, really good listen. Tom Bilyeu does a show called Impact Theory on YouTube. And he did an interview with Mel Robbins. So go find this on YouTube. And she talks about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 blast off. She was going through a hard time in her life. She made a decision that day that she was going to change it. And she's like, I literally, I wake up in the morning, I say my affirmations, and before I open my eyes, I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. My feet hit the floor and I have no choice but to move forward. Because if you wait more than 5 seconds, your brain starts to talk you out of it. So that coupled with my list, that's it. I just have to do it. I don't have to think about it. I just have to put one foot in front of the other until I'm on to the next thing.
My next question was going to be about mental health in real estate. You mentioned anxiety, depression. And I was going to say, oh, let's ask Amanda more about mental health and how you combat that. No surprise, you already answered the question, first of all, and the answer was a system. Amanda Dahl having a system for something, of course. I love that. You know yourself. First of all, you have to know yourself, right? And from what I hear you saying, it's that you're not trying to mask or escape these emotions, because these emotions are real, right? We have bad days and it's okay to have bad days. When a client, we just lost a client a few days ago, right? Who a listing appointment that we didn't get. And Devin's on this call. He knows about this. We take those things personally because we're humans, right? It's okay to feel that, but it's a different thing for it to ruin your entire day. Because it's one thing to feel the sting, whether you give yourself 5 seconds to react or 5 minutes or 5 hours. At a certain point, you just start stewing on it and you're going to turn into a more shriveled version of yourself where your identity that day is, man, today my day was defined by this. And so what you're saying is you're just not allowing yourself to be defined by that. You can feel it, but you're going to be defined by what gives you gratitude, right? You're having a conversation with your sister. So knowing the people that pick you up and add value to your life, knowing the songs that pick you up, the books, the habits, sometimes it's just going to the gym, right? And I love that you have a system around that too. So that's something I'm going to implement. As Devin, my teammate, knows, and some people on the call know, I've been going through a hard mental health time myself and a emotional, personal life issue. And my family's great. Everything's amazing. I've got the most supportive wife, but I need these systems in my own life. So I can't thank you enough for the ideas and systems you're giving me on this. I'm going to create a kind of a self-care checklist, not to escape my emotions, but to make sure I'm not defined by those negative moments. So apologize for talking a lot, but thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And Jason talked about this at our KWYP Advance, right? Or I think it was Jay. Yep. Who was it? It was Jason, or I can't remember.
I don't remember exactly who said it, but I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
But yeah, the PACE, right? So in the military, they use the acronym PACE. That's your primary plan. That's your alternative plan. It's your contingency plan and your emergency plan. In the military, they create 4 plans. So those of you that are like, well, I did business planning and I've got my primary plan and we're good. Y'all, it was Sajik. I apologize, Sajik. How could I forget that was him?
Thanks, Katie.
Yes, thank you, Katie. Y'all are just building 1. We need 4, right? And do you need 4? You get to decide. Although I know I don't want to fail. So if I don't have that contingency plan and then the emergency plan after that, then guess what? The percentage of my the percentage of me failing goes up. And what I know I want to do is I want to succeed in these things. I don't spend time in them. I don't spend effort in them to fail. Now, is failure part of the process? Absolutely. And yet I don't go into it going, today I'm going to fail. I want to succeed. And so I'm going to do everything in my power in order to do it. Now, make no mistake, I am not perfect. And the thoughts still creep in on a daily basis. And yet they're not as loud as they were 5 years ago. Yeah. So do they ever go away? I can't tell you. I can tell you as humans, our first thought is judgment. So anything could happen in front of my face and my first thought is to judge. And you know what my second thought is? We don't think that way anymore, Amanda. And that's all I can do, because I can't control my first thought, but I know I can control my second. So my second thought is always going to be, we don't think that way anymore. Will that ever go away? I don't know. Yet what I do know is it gets softer and softer and softer. And all I can do is wake up every day and invoke this plan that I have, or these plans that I have, and decide that I want to be better than I was yesterday. And there are some days where I'm like, I'm not calling nobody. Today I am in my feelings and I'm going to binge eat and Netflix and I don't care. And I'm aware of that. I'm making myself aware that today I am not doing anything. Tomorrow, though, I will be better. So it's not always perfect. Awareness, you said that earlier, and I think that is so key. Make yourself aware and then decide what the next thing you're going to do is.
Good book recommendations mentioned here. Jesse Coleman in the chat talked about The Untethered Soul, which he knows I tried to read a few weeks ago and it wasn't hitting at the right time for me. So I've got about 50 pages into it and I put it back on the shelf. What other books or podcasts speak to you, Amanda? What's helped change you or develop you into who you are? Or what are you currently reading now?
Yeah. So I do a lot of like business books. I'm just that way. I don't know why I'm wired that way. I just am. So they touch me in different ways though. Like one of my favorite is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Like that
Mm,
one really just taught me to think about, and it's so much more than just business. It's about the people in your world. It's about trusting teams and it's about leadership and it's about all these things. So you learn so much more. One of my favorites, I actually use it more in business than I do in my personal life, is the 5 love languages. If you don't
mm,
know the 5 love languages, if you don't know what yours are and you don't know what the love languages of the people around you are, the relationship's going to be harder. One that I read recently, actually, and I was reading it with Tamika and Tara, and there were who else? Oh, Megan was reading it with us too. And this one, gosh, get your tissue box, and it definitely gave me perspective. It's the 5 regrets of the dying.
ooh,
Oh my gosh! And let me tell you, I'm not going to tell you all 5 of them. I'm not going to ruin it for you. The number one regret, and I'm just paraphrasing here: living a life that somebody else thought I should and not the life I wanted to. Like, could you imagine being on your deathbed and that's your regret? I got one life and I didn't live the life that I wanted to.
yeah,
Like, I just got goosebumps, right?
yeah.
Like, so that book was amazing in perspective. And then you mentioned a couple. Rocket Fuel, I think, is a really great book. The 360-Degree Leader is phenomenal by John Maxwell. Whether you are a leader or you've got people in your organization, the book talks about leading from the seat that you're in and having an impact that way. So those are some of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm putting these in the chat, by the way, if anyone wants to reference those. Something you mentioned just now about the regrets of the dying reminded me of one of my favorite quotes that I heard from you on Clubhouse. It's not a quote of yours, but I've heard you mention it multiple times, is the definition of hell being me meeting, when I die, meeting the version of myself that I could have been, like my highest potential. There could be a crippling anxiety that comes from that and feeling like you're walking around with a shadow that you can never live up to. But on the other side, how motivating that could that be for you to think you wake up in the morning or even just in between appointments? Do I want to scroll Instagram right now? Or do I want to remind myself of what my goals are? And it's okay to scroll Instagram. There's literally nothing wrong with that, right? But is that how you want to be spending your time in light of the perspective of what you could be doing? And it doesn't have to be building your business or being this entrepreneurial avatar that we think of. It could just be calling someone you love, right? It could just be living your life according to your goals, not some made up goals that you see from some influencer on Instagram. And so I personally have been, I'm doing 75 hard. As you know, I have like 6 days left. Thank goodness. One of the things I've been doing is walking through our city cemetery every morning. And at first I got there because it's pretty wide open. There's not a lot of trees and buildings. So I'm learning how important it is to get sunlight in your eyes early in the morning to set your circadian rhythm. But it has turned into this really meditative, peaceful place where I can think about what my legacy is and I'm going to leave. For example, a great exercise is, what is someone going to write on your gravestone if you didn't tell them what to write? What would be written about you? It's similar to what do people say about you when you leave the room, right? And I, as someone who procrastinates a lot, and I operate very well when there's a clear deadline, and when I'm very close to that deadline, I can turn into the most efficient person. I was thinking about this morning, like not knowing when we're going to die is the ultimate deadline out there, right? It could be tomorrow. It could be in 100 years. No, probably not 100 years for me anymore. But, you know, just the idea that you don't know. I'm not trying to give anyone a fear trip or a guilt trip, right? But so I thank you for that quote and continuing that you planted that seed that has continued to be watered through these other experiences of just ruminating on what my life is about, right? And isn't that the point? You mentioned Simon Sinek a minute ago. The book I'm reading right now for 75 Hard to start with why. I love that you mentioned the who is the most powerful question we can ask. And this is different. It doesn't mean that's the only question, right? Why? This gets into your identity. Why do you exist? Why do you wake up in the bed in the morning? Why are you guys logged onto this Zoom call right now when you could be doing something else that might be more productive? And so I'm rambling. So I want to
No, but
thank you for
that's
that.
the point,
Yeah.
Patrick, right?
Yeah.
Why? I love start with why, and you should be defending the hell out of whatever your why is. As you're reading that book, why invokes that defense mode, you should be defending your why with everything. We talk about this in career visioning too, right? You have your what is the word I'm looking for? Your board of people, your group of people to defend your candidate, right?
Yep.
You have to have that meeting with them where you literally defend your candidate. So that's what you should be doing with that book. If your why is, you know, because it's my kids, like you should be defending that, right? If your why is because I want to have opportunity and experiences, then you should be defending that with everything in you. So I know that is an intentional why, which I appreciate.
Thank you. I love that. We're going to open this up for questions, any questions you guys have for Amanda. And while you guys are thinking of your questions and coming on mute, I want to ask you one question, Amanda. Peel back the onion for us on what you're building. We all are building our own businesses. What's next for you? What's your goal? Could be immediate, or it could be your 5-year vision. Do you want to be on stage at Family Reunion? Do you want to have 10 coaches underneath you? Can you tell us what you're building and what you're working on?
This is such a great question because it comes at such a unique time for me. So I just hit a year anniversary with my business, and I love every minute, almost every minute of what I've done in the last year, right?
You can be honest.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
And it has definitely, what I've learned in this last year is I launched a business because I felt like there was no other option. I thrive the best in team environments. I thrive the best in collaboration. My name does not have to be on the sign. My photo does not have to be on the picture, right? I just love to support something bigger than me with people that I want to spend time with. It's what I'm good at. It's what I was built for. It's in my DNA. And so while I have loved this so much, what I'm identifying is now I'm in conversations about collaboration with people. Like I could not wait to make my first hire just so I had somebody else in my organization. Because while last year was the most successful year I've had, most money I've made, most time I've had back, it was also the loneliest year of my 35 years. And so what I've figured out is I thrive better in a team environment. So now I'm in conversations with some people about collaboration and how to take my mission and vision and their mission and vision to the next level. So there's going to be exciting stuff coming, and yet we're still courting each other in that regard. So I'm excited to share that stuff with you all. It'll still be in this realm. It'll still be these things just on a much grander scale, because I'm going to take my own advice and realize that I can't do it alone, nor do I need to do it alone. And this last year has taught me I don't want to do it alone. So.
Congrats. That's exciting. I'd love to hear more about that soon. I don't know if you guys heard that, but Amanda, who's been through a divorce and has been on the yo-yo of weight loss throughout her life, has said launching an incredibly successful business was the loneliest year of her life. Make sure you're around people, guys. Make sure you are surrounding yourself. It could be someone you're hiring, like Katie, being on these Zoom calls. We're disconnected. Thankfully, through the pandemic, we're coming back on the other side and we're more connected now. But make sure you aren't isolated. Make sure you're not alone. And this goes into a very serious issue of mental health. There, we all know people who have taken very drastic measures because they felt alone. So please don't let anyone in your world feel alone either. You could be the phone call or the text that someone else needs, and vice versa as well. Some days when you need it. I had a great text from a friend last night that I needed to hear. I was at a low spot. And I just needed to hear it. I wasn't anywhere close to drastic measures, but you just never know how lonely business can be. And Gary talks about that, too. The more successful you get, first of all, it's boring because you're doing the same activities. All you're doing is showing up consistently and doing very simple things over and over again. It can be boring and it can be lonely. And so thank you for being honest about that. I really appreciate that. I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes. What questions do you guys have for Amanda? Feel free to just unmute yourself and hop right on. Jesse, I know you got something. I see you over there with your wheels turning. I'm not going to call people out like that. If no one has questions, that's totally fine. I can keep talking. I just know that Amanda has given you so many ideas and has everyone's wheels turning. So now's your chance. So you have time with her. While people are thinking of questions, I want to ask too, Amanda, how can people find you if they want to have either coaching consult call, or if they want to meet up with you or invite you to come speak on Zoom or in person? What's a way for someone to reach out to you?
Yeah, so the best way, I'm on every channel. So I'm at the Amanda Dahl on Instagram. You can send me a DM. My website is amandadahlconsulting.com. And you can fill out a form there. You can take my cell phone number. You can put that in the chat as well. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm lying. Katie, booking at amandadahlconsulting.com.
That is that's a good director of ops right there, who's giving the right email address in the chat. I should have asked Katie how people can get a hold of you. I should have known to do that.
Booking at amandadahlconsulting.com. See, this
awesome.
Is why. Yeah.
My friend Francis from the Best Coast has a question for you. Francis, what's up, man? Or I think he did. Francis, if you're not ready, I see Harjut has a question. Harjut, go ahead.
This is so good. This is so good. Thank you for doing this. Amanda, how do you know when a coach is not working for you?
That's a great question. So I think that you can absolutely do some self-reflecting in that. I was having this conversation last night or yesterday at lunch. I think there is a misconception on what a coach sometimes is supposed to do for you, or some type of result that they're tied to for you. And the reality of the situation is, the best way that I can describe my job is, it is my job to dig deep with you and identify where it is you want to go, right? So what I do with my clients is I do a needs analysis in the beginning. So I can identify where you're at. Like, where are you? Where were you before me? Where have you been? Now I know where I need to meet you. And then the next thing that we identify together is, where is it that you want to go? Because we have to identify what the gap is. And then we're going to build a 1-3-5 around that, right? This is all you though. This is just me helping you self-discover. And my number one job as a coach is to constantly hold a mirror up so that you can see exactly what's happening. Have those real conversations with you, have the raw conversations with you, and ask questions. I have no magic formula. And knowing you and the relationship that I have with you, you already know so much and you're so intelligent. So there's probably very little that I can tell you that you haven't heard before. I mean, my gosh, you've seen Gary on stage, right? My job is to hold up a mirror and show you exactly what your actions are bringing you. And so when we identify that we are not even on pace to reach goal, and that can be in life or in business, by the way. I actually switched my coaching with my coach to completely personal and health and fitness, because that was way more, my business was good. My business was going, I was doing everything I was supposed to. I was failing in this department. So I said, can we do some coaching around this? And so all her job was to hold up a mirror and make sure that she was showing me every single week what I was actually doing. And then she asked questions. And for me, I am here to support you as a coach. So what I can tell you is, if your actions are not producing the results that you intend to do, and I'm showing you this in a mirror, then it's one of two questions. Does the goal change, or are the actions going to change? And either way, I'm here to support you. I'm okay with whatever it is that you want to do. But make no mistake, the reason that you hired me is to keep you on track. And it is my job to dig deep with you and identify. So all that to say, you need to ask yourself that question. Is my coach doing that? Is my coach showing me how I'm showing up every single week, asking questions and helping me dig deeper? And is it just me not showing up for my coach? Because that happens a lot. And that is not the fault of the coach. Expectations are too high. Or is it that perhaps I'm not communicating with my coach in the regard that I need to? Because that's one of my pillars. So if you are not having open dialogue with me, I do a review on you. I do a review at 90 days, 6 months, and a year. And it's a two-way review. Here's what's working well for you and where I see we need improvement. Now you tell me, as your coach, what would you like to see more of? Is there something that you don't like? Is there a different approach? Like, I'm not a mind reader, but we have that open dialogue. So I would ask myself, Harjo, am I showing up the way that I should for my coach? And then if your coach is doing these things, then looking at yourself in the mirror. If not, though, have you given your coach an opportunity and had this dialogue with them? And then some people, coaches are for a season. Like, I literally just coached someone right out of my organization, and I'll tell you why. Because she has got a 5-year plan to exit her team, and she doesn't know if she wants to sell it or if she wants her son to take it over. And literally our conversation was, listen, I've never been through that as a coach. I've never coached anyone through that. I could probably give you the textbook answers. And yet I know 2 other coaches, and so do you, that would be really great at coaching you through this. So our relationship has served its time. Here's someone who could coach you better on that. So I'm also okay with coaching people right out of my program and finding somebody who can help them in that regard. So I know that was a long-winded answer, and that's how I would say you should dissect this. Am I showing up for my coach? If not, does my coach know that I'm looking for these specific things and it's been open dialogue? Or have we served our season and I'm just ready for the next level?
That's super helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Harjot, fantastic question. Thank you for that. Francis also asked in the chat, and he said you're kind of already answering it, but he had been assigned an agent to shadow him for Francis to then teach and kind of instruct. Anything else to add to that specific question on how we can kind of open up our books and our business to inspire others who want to learn from us, which is, I will also add, as a great recruiting tool, because they may end up joining your team. Not this specific example, Francis, but I love being transparent with people. And then often it can lead to people deciding that you're the person they want to join. So yeah, Amanda, take that away.
Yeah. So I would first say that it doesn't really, like, are we PG, or can I be really vulnerable here? Like,
Vulnerable as you want to be. It'll live on YouTube, but be as vulnerable as you want to be.
I was a shit show. And I just told people that, like, listen, I honestly, at this point, we tripled the business in year one. And I couldn't tell you how we did it. I was working around the clock. I was really stressed. And all I know is we tripled the business. So if you want to come in and you want to see that, I am more than welcome to have you by my side and watching what I'm doing. And whatever you can take from that, I'm okay. Yet just be aware that we are a shit show. I'm working on documenting it. I'm working on figuring it out. Yet here's the deal. And some people really appreciated that. And some people ran from it. Once we got to a point though, where we were documented and we knew what we were doing, then we just opened it up. We're like, hey, listen, if you want to come lead gen with us, we're going to be lead generating from 9 to 11 anyway. Come into our bullpen and lead gen. I've got 3 agents that are going on listing appointments this afternoon. Feel free to shadow any one of them. So they could always come do it. That's fine. But I was just always really real with them. The agent that you're going to shadow has been with us 6 years. They've closed about X amount of dollars in volume. Or the agent that you're going to shadow, this is their probably 3rd listing appointment. So just be aware of that. So I feel like when you set expectations up front and let people know what to expect in the process, then there's no, like, listen, they can jump on board and say, I'm going to take this opportunity to learn from you and absorb everything like a sponge. Or they could be like, you know what? Thank you for being transparent. You're not at the level that I'm looking. I appreciate that. I didn't waste my time. That's how I would say to approach it.
Fantastic. And I think that setting proper expectations applies to any relationship, right? As a realtor to your clients, right? I heard this at Family Reunion or at Mega Camp just recently. You know, if your clients, if you haven't explicitly told your clients that you can't turn the moon purple, then they might get mad at you for not being able to turn the moon purple. So telling them what you can do and can't do, when they can reach you, when they can't reach you, what methods to reach you, is it email, text, Instagram, DMs? Anytime you set proper expectations, it's going to prevent that much more frustration and disappointment for both parties.
Yeah, I agree.
Amanda, what was your favorite nugget from Mega Camp? Like, what are you ruminating on since being gone a week and a half, 2 weeks that we've been home?
So my favorite thing, and I wrote it down because I had a feeling these questions were coming. I wanted to go back to something you said earlier about, you know, the choices that you make and what you decide to do with your day. How do you get up every day? Gary Keller said this on his CEO podcast. I think it was like first season. Life is a series of decision-making moments. The better decisions you make, the better moments you have. And so you get a choice every single day. Every single day you get to choose. And just know that sometimes it may not be the best choice. And yet, by just committing to making better choices, you're going to have a better life. So from Mega Camp for me, let me just pull up.
And if anyone else has any questions, this will be your last chance afterward before we close up. I just realized we're going a little over time because this conversation is so great.
Obsession is a model. I just wanted to make sure I quoted him right.
Ooh.
Obsession is a model. And so
I don't remember that one. Can you tease that out a little bit?
So that was at our KWYP Advanced. Katie, keep me honest if you're still here. I'm pretty sure that was Jason Abrams because he was talking about models. Or that could have been at the CEO Mastermind Day 1, and Gary could have said it.
It was at the Advance.
It was at the Advance, yes. So Jason did say obsession is a model. And that, like, literally, I was like, I'm just going to go home and get really obsessed about something. And for me, I'm obsessed about the fact that I love to support people, the fact that I love to collaborate. So now that's all that's on my mind. I'm obsessed with that. So where's the next opportunity? What does that look like for my business? So go get obsessed about something and let that obsession be your model. That was my favorite.
Anyone else? Any questions before I close it out? I think we covered everything. Amanda, cannot thank you enough for your time, your energy, for your humility and vulnerability here. If anyone wants to reach you, remember it's booking at Dahl Consulting. Is that right?
Amanda Dahl Consulting.
Booking at AmandaDahlConsulting.com. Reach out to Amanda, hit her up on Instagram, find her, follow her. Amanda's one of those just joyful people that's going to want to cheer you on and root for your business, whether you're a client or not. And so as a reminder too, this has been hosted by our Keller Williams Young Professionals chapter here in the Triangle of North Carolina. I'm the vice president of the chapter. We've got Steven, our director of ops. We've got our director of finance, excuse me. Kate, our president, was on for a while here. And so we host these monthly. If you have anyone that you think would be a great guest, whether they're in production or outside of that, please feel free to send me a DM. We do these the second Thursday of every month from 11 to 12 Eastern, and they're always on Zoom and they will live recorded on YouTube. So if you've heard anything here that encouraged you and you think might encourage someone else, I encourage you to take the YouTube link. It'll be up shortly and go send it to them. And then aside from that, catch you on the next one. And hopefully we'll see you at some in-person events with Keller Williams Young Professionals. Amanda, anything else before we log off?
I appreciate you so much. I've enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you so
Lots
much.
of
We'll
love.
see you guys soon. Bye, everyone.